Namo Buddhaya, Namaste. There are a few questions which I will try to answer. The first question from Tejas R. After practicing meditation for some time, I've been feeling a bit more energetic. Does that mean I have done my meditation correctly? Probably. I would say correctly implies there's an incorrect way to meditate. It isn't as black and white as that. Meditation is the practice of allowing our minds to develop by letting them settle. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. It is too broad a practice to specify what is correct and what is incorrect. One, yes, must judge your efforts, judge perhaps the wrong word, but discern the results of your efforts by that, by the results. If you are feeling filled with positive energy, a brightness, a lightness, an enthusiasm after meditation, then yes, this is one of the benefits of meditation. There are many, both during and afterwards, and some that will continue between meditation practice sittings. So it is an ongoing practice. If, however, extra energy is resulting during the practice of meditation, then this could be a little bit confused with the fourth hindrance of restlessness and worry. So restlessness. And restlessness is wanting to get on with the future, not necessarily being worried about the future, but wanting to get something done. And this is not staying in the present moment. So if that energy is occurring rather than a brightness and a lightness within meditation as I want to do this next, I need to do that, and I could be doing this better, then that is considered restlessness. But as long as it is just a positive feeling of energy after your meditation practice, then I would suggest, well done, your practice is going well. I would say it's going well, not correctly or incorrectly, because that is too black and white for the practice itself. So sadhu, 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 keep practicing. You can only measure these results over a long time. When I say a long time, we're all different, but you don't see your face changing in the mirror as you age. And like the practice, it is not noticeable in one day or in a short period of meditation. There will be some phenomenon, both mental and physical phenomena arise during the meditation and continue afterwards. And these can be beneficial, and some can be maybe not so beneficial. But one can only judge one's practice looking at, in hindsight, over a period of time, how am I today compared to, say, last week, last month, last year, 5 years ago? And then you really do get to see the progress of your practice. So thank you for that question. And I think there's another question from the same Tejas R. While meditating, I'm not always able to label each breath being long or short. I just get the general idea of the average breath that I take. However, I can label in breath and out breath and can observe them up to some extent. Based on my experience, the attention goes to my chest, my belly and my nostrils, and I can feel the breath in these areas at times. Can you please comment on this practice? Gladly. Excuse me, but it sounds like you've got the right idea, because you start off as saying you're not able to label each breath as being long or short. No, that's good. We shouldn't necessarily be trying to label a description of the breath, but one should note in your mind, know whether the breath is long, whether the breath is short, whether the breath is deep, whether the breath is shallow. In terms of its location, this is something you need to establish at one point. You mentioned the nostrils, the chest and the belly. Firstly, on the chest, if you're breathing with your chest, it's usually if you're breathless, you're out of breath, you've been doing some exercise, or you're practicing some heavy breathing exercises, yogic exercises of this nature. Now that shouldn't be the case in ordinary sitting meditation. One should just be breathing naturally. When you breathe using your chest, you expand your chest and contract your chest using all of the bones and the muscles in your rib cage, and even stretching your spine and your shoulders. A lot of muscle power, a lot of bones, a lot of bodily movement in order to get as much air in as possible. And then exhale as much air as possible. This isn't a relaxed form of breathing, and if your chest is moving, other than very slightly during meditation, then you need to try and adjust your breathing technique to the diaphragm only. So in the central point of your torso, below your rib cage, thereabouts at this point, only your tummy, your stomach, your belly should be rising and falling as you inhale, as you exhale. This is breathing with the diaphragm, and a more natural and relaxed way of breathing. How you would be breathing if you were asleep, naturally, and not puffed out. Breathing through the chest, it would ultimately cause some phenomena of over-oxygenation, over-carbon dioxiding, any of these results that can be something that people do practice purposefully. But in this meditation, Anapanasati, we're not doing that. If you're going to label anything, this would be the point where you would label. You may say your tummy is rising, tummy is falling. Tummy is rising, tummy is falling, if you were observing the breath at this point. If you're observing the breath in your nostrils, it's not perhaps easy to label that, because one is experiencing a sensation, and it's not good to be labeling a whole description. One should just note the breath in and note the breath out. And know it's long, know it's short. Not think about it, you just know that. You may draw your awareness to the temperature of the air going in, the temperature coming out. So of these 3 points you mentioned, yes, you can, wherever you can identify the breath in one place without having to switch as your breathing changes, this is the place to notice the breath. When people sometimes say they cannot find a point like that, so say they can't notice it at the nostrils or the upper lip or even in their torso, then it's a good idea in that case to just run around a little bit, do some exercise and get the breath really going, then locate it, and then as you settle, stay with that point. Because once you start breathing heavily, you can more easily notice it. And it will diminish to a very unnoticeable, very subtle level of breath the longer you meditate for. Because of course this is the intention, for our minds to settle and our bodies to settle. So thank you for your questions, Tejas, and actually I think you've sent another question in which I will go to now. I hope I've answered the breathing one okay. Please comment if you need further expansion on that. Tejas, another question. This is about sleeping. Now I think I've probably mentioned a little phrase before, that the Bhikkhu, the monk, should sleep little, eat little, speak little. Now this is a common phrase heard in the traditions I'm used to and I come from in my background, because this is the aim. And this is also going to relate to a question I noticed that's coming up a little bit later on. So I don't want to dwell too much on this. But does meditation decrease the need for sleep? Yes, that's the answer to that question. Meditation is in fact more restorative when you develop meditation and samadhi, and it becomes a natural and beneficial practice. Of course, at first, when one is still trying to develop the practice, it may not be so. It may be a little more effort is required. But as one practices and starts to enjoy meditation and develops samadhi, the stages of samadhi, and into the jhanas, then certainly meditation is a very restorative practice for your mind and for your body. This is why practitioners of meditation, monks whom are just meditating, primarily their activity, mine for the day is meditation, need much less sleep than someone working who is burning their energy through their mind, whether it's sitting at a computer working with facts and figures or a physical job. It still tires you, still creates exhaustion, tiredness. Not necessarily physical, but mental tiredness does require more sleep as well as physical tiredness. So if you're working, because he then says, how much sleep does a meditator, monk person need? I like that, monk person. A monk person shouldn't need so much sleep as a non-monk person, put it that way, because a monk person isn't really working. If you're a working monk, please forgive me, then you're doing your work, you're not a meditative monk. But if you're a meditative monk, which is what you're describing here, a meditator or a monk person, then very little sleep. I have 4 hours sleep a night. I go to sleep at about 12 and wake up at 4, or go to sleep at 11 and wake up at 3. I don't use an alarm clock, so it varies, but it coincides with the end of my meditation, which begins at 9 o'clock in the evening and finishes when I feel it's time to go to sleep. And then I wake up in the morning at 3 and meditate until about 6. So I've got 3 hours either end of the day. 6 hours meditation already, and then another 3 during the day, maybe in one go and sometimes in a couple of sessions. But that's a lot of meditation, a lot of actually sitting and doing nothing. Now I do a lot of walking also, which does, I suppose, create some tiredness, but it's not at a raced pace. It's at a steady, almost walking meditation pace when I go for arms round. And it's a very relaxing and enjoyable and fulfilling experience when you're going on arms round to collect food. So a monk's life is very sedentary, relaxing. So they shouldn't need so much sleep. So 4 to 6 hours is maximum. Of course, a lay person who's got a working life, a family life, a social life, 6 to 8 hours. But we're all different. You know, some people work hard, need little sleep. Some people don't work hard, need a lot of sleep. You will know in your heart if you're sleeping too much. We all know. So just one way of not controlling sleep, but one way of keeping your attention on this sleep is, often I'll say, when people can't find the time to meditate, then make the time to meditate, because there's always time to meditate, but without going to the ins and outs of that, because of micro meditations you can do through the day, and the fact you can always be mindful of the breath, whatever you're doing, however busy you are. Even with that aside, at the beginning of the day, if your day starts at 6 o'clock, then set your alarm to wake up at 5 o'clock. You have an hour to meditate. If you normally go to sleep at 11 o'clock, then sit and meditate from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock. There's 2 hours you found in your day. You either get up an hour earlier, or, I said that a bit wrong, the timings. You get up an hour earlier, or you go to sleep an hour later, and get into those hours, either side of your sleep, at least 40 minutes of meditation. That way, not only do you control the amount of sleep you're having, and you can start, if you sleep 8 hours, just reduce it by half an hour each end, or an hour each end, but add a little bit of your awake time, so you don't decrease it too much, and maybe decrease the sleep to 6 hours eventually. But you need sleep. If you're finding yourself tired during meditation, I mean, that is often because you are tired. It's the sloth and torpor, the third of the hindrances. And the solution, the remedy for sloth and torpor, tiredness, lethargy, is get more sleep. So each of us needs a different amount. There is no specific amount, but they are rough ideas. And the more you meditate, the less you'll sleep, because yes, it is restorative, and it can be, if you're when you are meditating, I don't want to say correctly, having said earlier it's no such thing, but if you are meditating in the right way, samasati, samadhi, then you will need less sleep, because it's better than sleep. And the jhanas are even better than that, the most restorative thing for your mind and for your body. So that's Thank you for your questions, Tejas R. Thank you. I hope I've answered them sufficiently for you. Now, I have another question now from Creel S. Thank you, Bhante. I have a few questions regarding dreaming. What did the Buddha say about it? Also, why is it that it never occurs in a dream to do spiritual work, like meditation, self-inquiry, or simply... I'm sorry, I missed the end of the question off there, Creel, because I took a screenshot of the comment and I didn't press read more. I think that was about the question, I hope so. Let me deal with the first part. What did the Buddha say about dreaming? Can I cheat a little bit and read you my answer, because I've replied to this. The Buddha didn't say anything positive about dreams, other than, with the practice of metta, you will sleep well without bad dreams. You see, so this comes from the practice of metta. One of the benefits, one of the blessings, will be to sleep well without bad dreams. That's about as much as the Buddha really ever said about dreams. I know we hear in some commentaries or in some traditions a lot about lucid dreaming and this and that. They are things that have really come about since the time of the Buddha. And your question is, what did the Buddha say about it? Well, he didn't really say anything much positive about it. But then he did say a lack of mindfulness, and it goes on to say other things, with regards to the precepts and not leading a wholesome, skillful existence, can cause bad dreams. And of course you don't want bad dreams. And it does also mention, which is relevant, although the Buddha didn't say it, in later commentaries there is talk and there is mention about the karmic effect of dreams. Essentially, dreaming is karmically neutral, ethically neutral. If you murder someone in your dream, it doesn't count as breaking the first precept or even intention. Even if it seemed in the dream it was a lucid dream and it was a really real dream that you really intended to murder this person, and even when you woke up you still actually don't like this person, but you know you wouldn't do that and you know you wouldn't break that precept, the dream does not count towards your karmic bank. Dreaming is karmically neutral, ethically neutral. And that leads on for me to say, what did I continue to say? How did I put this? And this is why it is recommended to sleep little. I said sleep little, eat little, speak little. Because sleeping little means you are not in an unconscious state for too long. Because with practice, you can be mindful right up until the breath before you go to sleep, and then mindful, samasati, the minute you wake up of that first breath, even to the extent, and this would take some many years of practice, of knowing you went to sleep breathing out, and knowing when you woke up your first breath was an inhale or an exhale. Now that might be a little bit extreme to expect, but generally speaking, if you're watching the breath more or less up until you fall asleep, and the first thing you do in the morning is you bring your awareness to the breath before even stepping out of the bed or sitting up or moving, then you are being mindful as long as you can be. Why? Because you cannot employ, practice, use, have mindfulness when you are asleep. Whatever anyone says, you are not mindful when you're asleep. Buddha means awake, not asleep. He doesn't ever say, practice mindfulness in your sleep. This is a time when we have no mindfulness. But if you are practicing meditation, if you are keeping the precepts, so if you're practicing Sila Samadhi Panya, you are a Buddhist. With time, you will dream less. Now, I'm sorry if you like dreams, you enjoy dreams. It's a little bit like entertainment. We enjoy entertainment, but we become disenchanted with it. and we renounce it, we give it up as monks, monastics, monks and nuns, and no longer need it. Also, if you're practicing mindfully and you're practicing meditation and you're keeping sila, you will find you'll dream less and not dream at all eventually. So the dreams, if you are having, whatever their nature, is an indication that you're perhaps not being as mindful as you can during your day, or your meditation, you're not meditating enough, or you may have been a little bit vague with your sila. So dreams, we don't need to dwell on them, they would just naturally diminish. What's the word? Eradicate. Mindfulness will eventually eradicate dreams. Reduce, eradicate, eliminate. I hope that answers your question. So that is why it doesn't answer your question, because what your question says, why is it that we never do any spiritual work and meditation or self-inquiry in the dreams? Well, that is why, because it isn't the place for them. Your dreams are really sorting out all the stuff that's been going on in your head outside of Sila Samadhi Panya, outside of your meditation, outside of being even mindful. So there is no place to bring the practice into your sleep. There is no room for it. The minute you've dealt in your dreams with the bad thing you did today, or even the good thing you did today, or the good thing you're looking forward to tomorrow, or the good thing you're remembering from the past, or the bad, or the, once your mind's dealt with that, it's dealt with it, a dream finished. And it's not going to deal with sitting with a clear mind, neither intentionally or in memory of. So these will not come into the scope, the world of dreams. So moving on, thank you for your question, Krill. Yes, a useful question. All questions are useful. And this question, I like this question. Why do I like this question? No reason. I like all the questions, but this particularly makes me feel helpful. Is that the right word? Kind. So I'm trying to think, how do you pronounce your name? I mean, I'd say it Sewak. Sewak S anyway. Sewak S. It sounds like you might come from India. How to free from past sins and live as a good person? Sorry, I just had to read the question now, and it's not very clear. Okay, well, just remember, past sins are in the past. Now, I don't know what background the questioner Sewik S is coming from. If you're coming from a Christian background, there's a slightly different angle on sin. We don't so much have sin in Buddhism, we have these precepts, basically doing wrong. And we're born pure. And not obviously, in some theistic traditions in Christianity, we're kind of born impure. And this life is to try and clean that up. And I could be wrong, so forgive me if I've misunderstood that concept. But it's quite black and white and simple in Buddhism. There are only 5 rules, and if you break them, you've done wrong, and you're going to reap the consequences of that, what you've done wrong. So how to free from past sins and live as a good person? Well, you take the 5 precepts, Panchasila. Now the 5 precepts, you determine to keep from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying and taking intoxicants from now onwards. And you make that your future intention. Excuse me, I'm looking at my answer a little bit here because it's more precise written down answer than me waffling on too much. So I've said in answer, determine to keep the 5 precepts into the future. And with that intention, know that all transgressions from these precepts in the past are mistakes. Notice I don't use the word sins. They're mistakes. Transgressions in the precepts in the past were mistakes. And you've made a determination to keep the precepts into the future. And just that. And not your future intention. So those mistakes in the past were that, mistakes, just that. Not your future intention, which you have just, whatever they were in the past, your future intentions, you have just made the new determination with the future intention to keep 5 precepts. This is what I say here. This is freedom from the past and liberation into the future. And I can't really word it any differently than how I have already, because that is what it means. Each time we take Panchasila, even if we have to take it twice a day, or we only take it once a year, each time we take it, Panchasila, we are just making a determination to refrain from. So it's no doing, I must do this, be good doing that, contribute to this, it's none of this. It's just, I refrain from killing, refrain from stealing, refrain from sexual misconduct, and refrain from taking intoxicants. And I didn't say refrain from lying, number 4. So this is a determination that you then take with you into the future. That is your future. The past remains the past. You are free from the past. Of course, you do have the karmic effect, the ethical causes for future conditions that you may have created through past bad actions. But there is no way, and the Buddha said, do not try and understand karma. Do not try and think, well, I did this then, so I'll have to pay it back then. There is no determination or working out when you will be paying back bad karma. So let it be, let go of your mistakes, consider the mistakes, and firstly, most importantly, forgive yourself. If you need to ask forgiveness of others, please do so. And to some extent it's to be encouraged where it is good and appropriate and safe to do so. But the person who is the victim of your mistake, no one else can forgive you for your mistake on their behalf, only them. So only if it's appropriate and would be to their benefit, not yours, their benefit, and it's safe to do so, you can ask their forgiveness. But if it's going to remind them and upset them and cause them harm, just to make yourself feel better, it's wrong to do. And there's no good coming to the monk, the vicar, the priest, the guru, the whatever, and saying, give me forgiveness for all of these things I've done. They can't forgive you either. But you can forgive yourself by making that determination not to make those mistakes again. And to be kind to yourself and forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made in the past. Thus liberating yourself, giving yourself freedom from those mistakes in the past. So thank you for your question. As I said, I like that question. The reason I like that question is because I come from an upbringing of a very Catholic background. And I very much enjoy the Catholic religion as a very strong, spiritual, devoted practice in a theistic field, in the field of Christianity, and it's a very beautiful religion. So please don't take anything I'm saying as any criticism of any other religions. I think all religions have their place in their cultures for the people that need them and enjoy them. But the Catholic emphasis is very much on sin and forgiveness. And coming from that background, I feel this Buddhist practice is a very liberating and freeing and simple way of doing exactly what, if I can use your words again, exactly what Soik Singh says, is to be free from the past sins and live a good life or be a good person. That is the practice, that is Sila. and then we have samadhi and panya. But sila, as I've said also recently, supports that meditation and helps us develop wisdom. I think that's all of the questions. And therefore, there I will end this, I hope it's not too long, relatively short questions and answer session, because I'm trying to bring them into within a 20-minute time slot. But it's quite difficult. So we'll see how this is when I eventually look at the clock. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and many, many blessings to you with metta, with loving kindness, with compassion, and mudita. So loving kindness is metta, karuna is compassion for anyone who's suffering or having even the slightest difficulty. Mudita is joy for others, and I have so much mudita for those who have reported good development in your meditation. That gives me joy that you're having a good practice of meditation. And even if you're slowly seeing results and not as fast as you like, just know, keep practicing sila, samadhi, panya, you will get there. And then finally, equanimity, upekkha. These are the 4 Brahma Viharas I've just tacked on the end of this questions and answers session, because these are our place of abiding in our lives, to make our lives enjoyable, fruitful, not only for ourselves but everyone around us. And then that has a kind of mirroring but amplifying effect of your joy, your happiness. And this is what it is all about, this practice. Happiness, the result of contentment. So I'll leave you there with those thoughts. Any more questions, comments, please send them in, and I will very much look forward to the next Dharma talk or answering the next questions in the next questions and answers time as it comes along. So Namo Buddhaya, Sukhi Hotu, and be happy. Thank you.